Hey everyone, welcome to Talks of Thailand. My name is Jon. Today's story is about a man who thought Thailand was the answer to his problems, more time than one. Got a bit of a different story today, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, give the video a like. Let's get in to today's story. My claim to fame is landing in Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong the day before the China Airlines Boeing 747 overshot the runway and ended up in the sea. I landed on the 3rd of November 1993, my first time in Asia. I'd just started a business and was searching for products to sell, and Hong Kong was meant to be the place. Back then, Hong Kong felt alive in a way that it simply doesn't today. I want to get that straight off, and I promise you that this is completely relevant to what happened to me in Thailand, so you will have to bear with me and let an old man reminisce about the past. Even in 1993, I was getting on a bit. We're talking around 30 years ago now, and I was 45, so getting on is probably not what you would say for someone who was 45, though at the time I felt like I'd already had most of my life, and I'd been divorced recently, and I was completely fed up of work. After the divorce, because we sold our house, I ended up with an amount of money that made me think to go and do something different. I'd always wanted to run my own business. I'd always been stuck in the same kind of work that I'd always done, and I was interested in doing a business similar to the work I did. I worked as a procurement manager, procuring certain items from the Far East, although I never went. This was something a bit different. Sell consumer things, sell something exciting and fun, and build my own business, and go and explore what Hong Kong was really like. I can remember getting there, the day after that happening to the China Airlines Boeing 747. Luckily, no one was injured in that crash, though it really did stand out to me, because that arrival into Kai Tak Airport at the time, and this was before they moved the Hong Kong airport to where it is today, it was one of the most fun, yet also quite nerve-wracking landings into an airport you will ever have. Flying low over the high-rise buildings, seeing the jam-packed city beneath you, it introduced me to Asia in a way that no other place would. It's a shame that they got rid of Kai Tak, it really is. Anyway, I was there, and I sort of hit the ground running, trying to find out what was there to find out about, and it happened to be the case that I believe I did quite well with my research. Because I was there for 2 weeks, I'd already got everything done with my business side of things in the first few days of being there, and I had 10 or so days left to really be able to find out about the fun side of Hong Kong. Because it was still part of the empire back then, the diminishing empire, that is very upsetting to note, it gave me that sense of excitement that it simply is not possible for anyone to get by going to Asia today. As a British citizen, back then it was better, and I'll just have to leave it at that. I was out one night on Hong Kong Island, really soaking it up, and it was the case when I bumped into this girl who I was extremely attracted to. I didn't know about the dynamics of relationships in Asia at the time, especially the ones that I seemed to gravitate towards, which were girls who were slightly younger than me. 45 I was at the time, and that girl, I can't remember how old she was, it doesn't matter, but she was in her 20s, though she was speaking great English, and we were chatting, and I found out she was from the Philippines. Again, I promise you this is related to my Thailand story, it really is. She was from the Philippines, and that made me feel a bit interested, because I'd never really done much looking into countries such as the Philippines before. I could never understand or remember even what she was in Hong Kong for. As naive as I was at the time, I didn't realise that she was interested in money, or that that's what she was after. I found that out to my peril the following morning, but I didn't bother. The fact that I'd just paid, again, it didn't really matter, and I'd never paid for anything like that before, but it didn't feel like you were paying because of the price of how much it was so cheap. The whole situation around that sort of nightlife was so cheap that it didn't really feel like you felt at home if you were doing something similar, which I never would. I would never do anything such as that at home. I kind of thought to myself, perhaps you need to go to the Philippines and spend some time there. I'd completely forgotten about my business side of things at this point that I'd just set up, and although I got some contacts and got some things properly set up for when I was back, I was now far more interested in Asia as a whole. Being in Asia, it was that meeting with that girl and with subsequent girls over the course of the next few days from different countries as time went by that actually made me completely forget about the idea of this business I'd started and I just did. I completely forgot about it. I wanted to spend time in Asia. I wanted to go home, and I wanted to put everything in place, and I wanted to get back to Asia as soon as I possibly could. This would have been, and be getting into probably 1994 at this point by the time I got back, so 32 years ago, and it feels like a very long time, because I suppose it is. Asia changed me in a way that I can't really put my finger on. That introduction to Hong Kong, flying into Kai Tak, it was such an experience that is difficult to comprehend if you've never been to Asia and if you've never actually understood what the possibilities of going to places like that are. I was drawn to it in a way that is difficult to describe. I just felt like I belonged in Asia. I felt like I was meant for Asia. When I arrived back home, that's when I did a lot more looking into the Philippines. That's where I wanted to go, based on those girls that I'd met from the Philippines in Hong Kong. I didn't meet a girl from Thailand yet, though it was over the course of a few months of me putting plans in action to go and see what other countries were like. It should probably be worth pointing out that I had about 250 grand, which at the time was a lot of money. This was after my divorce. This was after we'd sold the family home. I should mention that we had 2 kids who were living with my ex, still in their early teens, though she was one of those bitter and vindictive sorts who really made it difficult for me to see them. I just reasoned with myself that I'm going to have to see them and explain the situation to them when they're a lot older, when they are their own adults, because she was unbearable as a person. She was putting her own interests in front of her kids, putting her own annoyances in front of our kids' well-being, and it really made me understand that I needed to get away, and I forgot about that business idea entirely, because although it was fun to do and fun to think about, and I was enjoying it, the more possibilities of Asia being something that I could look into even more was even better than the business. I started looking into this whole situation, and of course we didn't have the internet as such back then, like you do today, for all the research that you're able to do today. I mean, you had it, I suppose, though not anywhere close to what it's like today, and I didn't really have the possibility to do any kind of online research. But the flip side to that, I suppose you would say, that was what made it even more exciting, because it's through the word of mouth, through speaking to people who have been to different places, and the talks from different people, from friends and old co-workers that you remember. You contact one of them, get in touch with them, and they said they went to Asia and that's why you got back in touch, and it was very interesting to listen to these stories. It was a lot more difficult to find out what things were like, though I ultimately came to the conclusion, based on a number of recommendations and based on a number of my own thoughts, that the country of Thailand would be the best place for me to go, and I could have a look there. 1994, we'd just rolled around into that. I was back home for a few months, and I flew to Thailand, and I can't remember which month, but it was early 1994. I was going to go and explore the country. That was my second time in Asia. I even thought that I would spend some time there, then go back to Hong Kong, and then go to the Philippines after that. I had enough money, I believe, to set myself up. Again, you have to remember that at the time, that was a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money today, but then it was even more than it was. Inflation and all this nonsense going on. Arriving in Don Muang Airport, it was a different world back then. Thailand it was nothing like people expect it to be today. You didn't have any hip and trendy people going there and renting overly priced apartments and these young couples who looked like the sorts of liberal people who had no place in such a backwards yet exciting country. I was very attracted to the nightlife scene based on my experience in Hong Kong, and I don't know why I didn't choose the Philippines really, because my experience was with girls from the Philippines and other countries, though not Thailand. But Thailand just seemed to be the kind of place that was a bit more exotic. It was more Asian, it was more unique in its own sense, because it never had been colonized. It didn't have the genericness of certain places. It was its own country. It was its own unique character and had its own unique character. I was led that to believe. So I made the decision to go there. I can remember getting there, staying, as many people did back then, quite close to the river, in a beautiful hotel. There was no SkyTrain back then, just this energy that you had never experienced before, apart from in Hong Kong. But it was a different sort of energy. It was more of a laid-back energy, but busy energy at the same time, but very laid back. The people were different to people you'd ever seen before. They were just unique in their own ways, and I really felt like I fit in Thailand, even more so than I did in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong had that British feel to it back then. It had that amazing feeling to it, don't get me wrong, though Thailand was so unique and so characterful that I immediately fell in love with the country and decided I didn't really want to go anywhere else because Thailand seemed to have it all. Back then, Pat Pong was the most famous nightlife place, at least for me, and the people that I knew. Of course, they had the other places as well, though I believed that Pat Pong was the heart and centre of nightlife back in Bangkok 32 years ago. I suppose it depends who you speak to and who you actually understand and talk to about things. This is, of course, just my opinion, and some people might disagree with me and they are free to do that. But Pat Pong was where I really dove in at the deep end to the amazing and wonderful and unique Thailand nightlife scene. All the shows that they had back then, it was a lot more, I would say, sordid than it is today, yet so fun and exciting, and it wasn't seedy in a way like you might expect it to be. It really, really wasn't that sort of place, like the sorts of places you'd go to at home and you'd cover your face to be able to go into those out of fear that someone would see you and recognise you. In Thailand, you were able to just hold your head high going into these amazing places. It was like it was an integral part of the city. Most of the guys that were there enjoyed that side of things, even if they were married with family, working in some of the expat jobs that seemed to be very popular back then, and very disappointing today that people aren't able to go for the big expat packages like they used to. It's like they've taken the experience and then stolen it from us, and then doing it and educated up their own people. I believe that's a bit disingenuous, because it hasn't allowed for the same kind of expat experience that many guys got back then. It doesn't exist today, and that's fair enough. That's part of how life progresses and moves. But going into places along Pat Pong, you could really hold your head high, and family men were going into bars and seeing those shows and seeing everything that was going on. It was the sort of place that dreams were made of. Life was different there, life was better, it was unique, and I said, characterful is the best word I have. I was just immersed from day one into Bangkok nightlife and into the scene there and into what everything was like. I really do need to stress on one thing yet again, because I believe it's so important to say. You have to understand, and this is for anyone listening, because I've listened to probably most of the stories on the channel, and also the Philippines channel. I really love the stories. I love listening to guys and what has happened to them, and I love how the stories are put together. I believe that you do a great job with your channel, and I really want to say that I really do believe you do a fantastic job to be able to get the stories to feel so alive. And there is no other channel out there that does that, so that's my little thanks to you, mate. What I really want to say is that many people say, or in the comments, because I read all the comments too, probably haven't missed a single comment, many people say, well, you don't meet a girl in a bar, or why would you want to go into a nightlife place like that? Why would you want to go into a go-go bar or any of those places because it's too seedy? You would never do that at home. You're correct, no, you wouldn't do that at home. You wouldn't meet a girl like that at home. Of course you wouldn't. But it was a different dynamic. It was an extremely different everything. It was night and day different. A girl like that at home and a place like that at home was a seedy sort of place, where the sorts of girls that went there were the sorts of girls that you wouldn't touch with a barge pole. In Thailand it was so different. It was open, it was everywhere, it was on the street corner, everybody knew about it. It was places that families would walk past, it was acceptable, it was normal, and it was a part of the fabric of society. You'd later learn that the Thais who were living in Thailand, of course, as you'd expect, that didn't come out right. You'd learn that they would spend time in different places seeing girls, and the industry was far, far bigger catered towards the locals than it was towards foreigners. So that's a very big misconception that it's only for foreigners that go there for the local girls. That's just not the case at all. It's a huge thing, and the Thais are leading the way by huge proportions. So you really need to understand that it's there, it's available, it's fun, it's not seedy, it's sordid, but in a good way, and it's part of the fabric of society in such a way that you don't think that meeting a girl somewhere like that you're doing something you wouldn't do at home, because it's a different thing. You wouldn't meet a girl like that at home, because it's not the same, therefore you wouldn't. Anyway, I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. So if you want to say that the fact that I went to the nightlife scene and I really fell in at the deep end there and went hard into it, you might think that I'm just the same as somebody doing that at home, but I'm not. It's different. If you've been there, you understand. It's so very different. Over the first couple of days of me being there, I'm just living the absolute high life, I really am, and I completely forgot about the need to work or the need to save money. I was just enjoying myself too much. Over the weeks and months, I did some visa runs to countries that I'd never heard of before, countries that you could just go in and out and it was no questions asked. Thailand was so much more laid back then. It was a lot more easygoing and just get on with your life and have a good time and support the economy, and here you go. It was wonderful. I'd spent the whole of 1994 since I arrived, up until the next year, just living Thailand to a sort of extreme. I wasn't spending that much money, even though I was going crazy, and the odd times that I would call and speak to my kids back at home, it was this long-distance call. There'd be a delay on the line. It would be really exciting to be there because you did feel like you were so far away from home, and I think that's the thing. Now it's just an internet connection and a video call away. No delay on the line. You could be in the next room, that's what it felt like. Now it does. But before, you could tell that the person was so far away. You'd have to go into specialist shops just to make those international calls, and it was such a wonderful time, and I wish I could go back to that time and experience it yet again. At the end of 94 into 95, I decided I was going to move to Thailand. Based on things that I'd found out since I'd been there, and how much things cost and other things of that nature, I decided I was just going to do the typical sort of thing that many people did. I didn't fit into the expat package sort of person like so many people seem to do, and that was upsetting, but I did realise that I was going to teach English just to tide me over as time went by. I wasn't making a lot of money with that, but I felt like I still had a lot of money to my name. All my money was at home, and the money lasted, and the money was great that I had, but I'm not making much by teaching, but I am being introduced to a side of the country that I didn't yet know anything about. I actually worked in a school quite close to the centre of Bangkok, though again there was no SkyTrain or anything to get there. It was busy and chaotic, old school cars, a really fun environment, and I did that for 6 whole months. I was still enjoying the nightlife side of things, still really getting stuck into that, and I'd met a few girls since I'd arrived, though nothing that was serious for more than a few months. That changed in 1996, I think it was, when I met this girl in Patpong, who kind of stuck out to me in a way that no other girl did. I felt things for her that were really strong and real, and I just felt for her more than I'd felt for any of the other girls. She was in her 20s when we met, from the northeast of the country, and I'd actually been to Isan 3 times since I'd arrived with different girls who I thought I might get serious with, though I never did, and back then, Isan was a different world yet again than it is today. It was so much less connected. You didn't have as many paved roads. Again, what's happened since then, the last 30 years, you would say Thailand has modernised, though I would personally say it's modernised in all the wrong ways, and things that should have modernised have stayed exactly like they used to be. So it's like the best things have vanished and the worst things have got worse. I think that would be accurate, but still, I love that part of the country. But she was from Isan, and we're getting serious, falling in love, and I'm teaching, and before long, she's living at the place that I'm renting. I was living in the Silom area. I always believed that that was the centre of the city for me. That was where, life was for me. I went to Sukhumvit often, or occasionally. I can't even think it was often, though I never felt Sukhumvit like I did Silom and Satorn, and I liked to be close to the river. I believed that that was Bangkok. That really appealed to me. And we're living like this, I would say, for a whole year before we got married. I believe that was at the start of 1997. Obviously, there were a few things that happened around 1997, a few things that happened to me personally too, and I made a decision. And this was at the start of that year. We were very serious, we were married, and we were in love and happy. I made the decision that I'd had a great time in Thailand, and I wanted to go back home. I wanted to build myself up, and I wanted to take my wife there with me. I wanted to see my kids more too, and then the idea was to retire to Thailand in the future. And that's what we did. A couple of months after that decision was made, we were arriving in England. It was her first time there and her first time out of the country. To start with, she felt quite out of place, though she seemed to fit in. Then I found a new job, bought a house, and we started living. Then not long after that, we had the Asian financial crisis. The pound raises considerably in value, and I kind of felt that I'd already thrown in the towel of Thailand, or at least for a few years. Though if we were still in Thailand, I could have probably taken advantage of quite a few different things and built up quite a portfolio of property in Thailand, at least through my wife. But you don't think things like that at the time. It's only looking back on the situation when you think, if only I'd done this, this could have happened. Or if I'd only had done that, that could have happened. You don't think like that at the time. You think like that years later. That was an opportunity. I had enough cash to be able to really take advantage of it. And though the situation was, Thailand was really like it was on the back burner for a while. We wanted to go and visit occasionally, though we wanted to build life in England. She was about 20 years younger than me, and she was, at that point, the love of my life, even more so than my first wife, because she was a real pain. She was very difficult to get along with, my old wife. When she found out that I'd remarried, and it was to someone so much more beautiful and more elegant than her, and more feminine than she was, she didn't like that at all, and she played absolute mental gymnastics with the kids. And I don't want to talk about my kids anymore, though fast forward a few years, and I had to put things straight with them and tell them what the truth was, and they understood the situation, and they kind of felt a bit angry with their mother for keeping me out of their lives the way she did, because she was such a vindictive cow. That would be the best way to describe her, but that was who she was. But I'm married and I'm in England, I'm happy again, and I'm starting to think about business. I got a job, but I wanted to do business and doing that. I believed I had enough money to be able to do that. We had the house, that was fun, and we had a house with my new wife from Thailand. We didn't have any kids as well, and I think that's important to say, she didn't have kids. We really were in love, really happy. 1997, 8, 9, the year 2000 comes around, and by this point I'm in my 50s. I believe she'd just turned 30, my wife at this point, and yeah, we've got everything in place, no mortgage on the house, and I started that business around that time. There's no point getting too much into information about what that business was, though it was import-export. We did a lot of travelling together to different places, and it was doing okay to the point where we were able to go on nice holidays all the time. We were able to just have a great life, and that's what we did. 2005, though, was a very bad year. I'd go as far as saying the worst year of my life up until then, because my beautiful wife had decided that. I don't know what it was about me that she didn't like anymore, but we ended up getting a divorce because she'd been cheating on me and had met somebody else. I lost half my stuff to my first Thai wife, and I say first Thai wife because I suppose I'm giving too much away by saying that. I lost half my stuff, and I was really devastated about that whole situation because I'd put in so much work and so much investment. Now I've lost all this money, and again, I probably had about £250,000, that was everything. I spent a lot of money in Thailand, we'd invested in the business, and we'd made money and spent it on things, we'd spent it on nice holidays, and she'd ended up with £250,000, my Thai wife, who I thought I'd made her life better, though she made her own life better at my expense. That was such a dreadful moment. As soon as that happened, around 2005, that was when I just felt like I needed to escape again. I needed to get out of this place. Because seeing my ex-Thai wife with this other guy close by to where we were living and walking around together, that was like rubbing salt in a very fresh wound. Because I brought her there. I was responsible for taking her there. I was responsible for her being there. So how was she allowed to even stay? I mean, she had a UK passport at that point. She did. Though again, it just felt like it was not something that should have been allowed to be legally possible. But it was, and that happened, and I just wanted to get away. And Thailand was the obvious choice. About 57 years old I was when I got back to Thailand, and this was probably in 2006. I decided to just retire with what I had. The pound was still very strong then, the baht was still very weak, yet I didn't transfer all my money in. I was speaking to a few guys talking about that and the status of living in Thailand when I got there, back to Bangkok in 2006, and it was always from most people's angle, you'd be so much better off leaving your money at home. You'd be better to do that. And of course, leaving my money at home was a bad idea in hindsight, because if I transferred it all in with what I had at the time, based on what I had, I'd have had close to 15 million baht. It was a lot of money. As time went by, it just got worse and worse for the pound, as it has for many people, so I'm not complaining on that front, though it's decisions that you make that affect the course of your life, while you don't know that they're going to. Because of what had happened at home, I just didn't care about anything though, or money, and I had a dark patch in my life. Probably from 2006 all the way up to 2010. I was just out constantly. I was spending time with different girls, drowning out my sorrows, living a very basic existence, if you will, mainly going out all the time, every day. But I lived in a very small place. It only cost me £100 a month, the place I was living in, and I was spending a lot of money on other things, but not caring, because you arrive and the exchange rate's so good, you've got money to spend, you can spend, £1 million baht or more a year. Even though that was a fortune back then, it was only 14 grand in English money, yet it felt great. Then, of course, over time, the pound gets weaker and weaker, and the baht gets stronger and stronger. And 2010 rolls round, and I kind of got pulled out of that situation because my kids were coming for a visit, and that was what allowed me to sober up. That was what allowed me to get myself back on track mentally. They came to visit, and that was when I told them about the situation, why I hadn't been a big part of their lives because of their mother, and I had lots of proof of things she'd done, and we made peace with each other. Everything was okay there, and I was very proud of what they'd managed to achieve in their lives. And they understood why I wasn't able to be a part of theirs, and we were okay with it together. I was able to tell them that, and it was that gave me the sense that them coming to visit, and them now knowing things about me, and a number of months before they did that, me getting myself back on track and pulling myself together and taking stock of the situation, and taking stock of the fact that I should have probably transferred all my money in as soon as I arrived. But I was left at that moment, and I had been crazy up until then, but I didn't care about that. But I'd been left up until that moment, and now it was time to really unwind and get myself back on track. I'd been divorced twice and got unlucky twice, not even thinking about ever trying to have any luck again with a relationship at that point. It was just do what you can, enjoy yourself, and yes, I lost track, but I've been getting back on track, and I do owe that to my kids. But if I look back, I don't even think I was enjoying myself. How did I do that? I don't know. I was just living and doing that and existing. And I probably would say I had about 150 grand left, as I'd spend 100 grand across those time I was there, and that's a lot of money. Probably a lot more than 1 million baht a year that I claimed to spend. But anyway, 150 grand left, a newfound lease on life since my kids had come to visit, and I was in two minds. Should I go back home? Should I stay in Thailand? I decided I would stay in Thailand, because that's where I felt at home now. I spent a big portion of my life there. I mean, that's relatively speaking. Though I'd been there for such a long time, I was loving it. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I decided that I was going to go and look at a few different places around the country, take myself out of the bar scene, take myself out of the nightlife side of things, and go and look at some fun places. I'd been to Pattaya, I'd been to Phuket and Koh Samui and Koh Samet many times with many different girls, but I'd never been up north, though not that side of things, apart from Isan where I'd been originally. I'd been there, like I said, just never north, as in Chiang Mai, the north of Thailand, and I wanted to go and see what that was like. I chose the best time to go, no burning season, no anything like that, and I got up to Chiang Mai, probably in 2011, and it was great, although it wasn't the Thailand that I loved. It's a very important thing though, because although I'd stopped drinking heavily and going wild in the bars, I did still go to the bars, but not in the same way. I would always drink Coke. I stopped drinking alcohol, apart from when I had a few beers by myself, yet I never had beers in the bars because I wanted my head switched on. But I ended up losing lots of money because of that before, and I realised if I wanted to go to a bar to meet a girl, stay sober. If I wanted a beer, have it at home. That was my mind at the time. The reason this is very important, though, is because I met someone in Chiang Mai, this beautiful girl again from Isan. I was getting on in years, as I had been ever since I arrived in Asia, at least I thought, and she was considerably younger than me, but she was different to all the other girls that I'd met. I often contemplate why I believed that, and I think it's quite obvious to say why, because I wasn't drunk when I met her, for a start, and I was always drunk when I met girls. And that gave me this kind of clarity, I believe, that she was different in a way, and I could pursue things with her, and she was just really a special girl, I felt, and we were both able to hit it off straight away. I actually spent a few months up in Chiang Mai, and then we're going to her village. Again, this is quite a strange situation what happened, because her village was in Khon Kaen. I met the family, spent some time with them. We were engaged to get married at this point, and this was going to be my third marriage. Everything was going to put itself together and put itself in place, and it was going to be something fun and exciting and different and new, and all these amazing feelings all combined together. We had no idea where we were going to live yet. I still thought Bangkok would be where we would live, though I felt like with her, I'd just met my soulmate, and fast forward a couple of months, we're putting plans in place to actually get married. I'd already given some money to the family. They'd basically spent all of it straight away, and then they wanted more afterward, but that's for another story, for another day. We were really happy. I was so in love with her, and I was giving her probably more money than I should have been. I was giving her 20,000 baht a month, and back then that's crazy. Even today, that's crazy to give a girl. Don't give a girl any more than she would make by working at a job in 7-Eleven. That's my go-to, and a go-to of many guys I know. I would say that's really important. We were in the family's house for a few weeks before the wedding was due, And I found something out, or saw something, should I say, that really destroyed me yet again. We weren't married yet. I'd spent money giving that to the family. I'd already paid for the wedding, though I'd found out that she was still romantically involved with this guy in the village, who really made me think that I'd been stupid yet again. I just really could not understand. Okay, I was a lot older than her, though this guy in the village, he didn't have a pot to piss in. He didn't look great, he was scrawny, and he was a farmhand, and she was really beautiful. But she was involved with this guy, and it was all a huge upset after that. I'm furious in front of the family. The family's losing face in front of everyone in the village, and they're angry with me, and I stormed out. Luckily, we weren't married yet, but I'd probably lost about 10 grand in that, including money for the family and things of that nature, though I got out, and there I am, just shaking my head in Konkan City thinking, what in holy hell is wrong with my life? This is insane, it really is. I can't work anything out. I was heartbroken too. I dodged a bullet though, I suppose, because I would have got married if I hadn't seen that. I would have been in a worse position, and I could have lost everything. I didn't have much money either though, so it was difficult. And I was just in Konkan City at that time, scratching my head thinking, what am I going to do now? I just thought, I'm going to go and drown out my sorrows in the bar. That was always my go-to when things went wrong, and that's what I decided I was going to do, stay in Konkan for a bit. Whether it was a twist of fate, or whether it was a completely fortuitous event that kind of took me to that bar, I will never know, because when I arrived at that bar and ordered a large Leo, this girl brought it over, though you wouldn't even call her a girl, you'd probably call her a woman. She brought it over, she saw that I was so upset, and it was only a very small bar area that they had in Konkan. It's only a very intimate place. It was only nothing like Bangkok or Pattaya or any of the other tourist places. They had a few expats milling around, and it just felt a lot more intimate, if you will. She brought the beer over, and she saw I was upset, and she said, what's wrong? I told her the whole story. I just felt like I had to speak to someone about it because my only couple of friends were down in Bangkok, and I didn't want to speak to them about it because it was too embarrassing. I'm telling her the whole situation and the whole picture, and she's just wide-eyed and jaw on the floor kind of shock situation, saying it's dreadful and how bad she felt for me. And I felt bad for myself too, and I said, would you like a drink? She said, yes, please, and she goes and gets herself a drink. And that was the first of the first times for me. Well, not really, I mean, it happened lots of times, but she brought herself over a large Leo too. No whiskey and coke or anything. And we're just chatting and talking about life. She was 38 years old. She was then starting to talk about this German guy that she used to be married to, and everything was going great with him, apparently. Then he started wanting her to do ridiculous things, is what she said. I'm not going to be too graphic here, though she was very, vocal about what he wanted her to do, and that all fell apart. And it wasn't great, she said. And I'm thinking, no, that doesn't sound great, I'm bad, and I'm sorry to hear that. And then she said, well, she got married again to somebody else after that, to an English guy, just like I was. And that went wrong, and how did that go wrong? And apparently he built a house in the village, close to her family, and then he was living there and things were going okay. But after a while he started going to Pattaya all the time, and it was him going to Pattaya and spending a few weeks or even a month there by himself, coming back and expecting her to be normal. And, well, all the tricks of the trade that girls would talk about, or women in her case would talk about. I thought she was probably, not telling the whole truth about everything, about how this guy was a bad man and how he went to the bars in Pattaya and came back and expected her to be normal. But I didn't really care if she was telling the truth or not. It sounded bad and I was prepared to listen. It just felt, though, it was like one of those situations where we both seemed to be able to get off our chest the bad things that had happened to us. I then talked about my first wife and then my second wife and how all that time in England I'd spent with her and how she'd taken that. And she said the problem is, you don't need a girl, you need a woman. She didn't say it as elegantly as that because, although her English was good, it wasn't fantastic to that point. Though that's what she was kind of saying, and I said, well, maybe I do. From there, we just kind of got to know each other, had a few more drinks, went for something to eat, and we're talking with each other about things that have happened in our lives. Before I know it, I'm still in Konkan a few weeks later. And then, after that, a few more weeks, and then we've decided we're going to go to Bangkok together. I believe this was 2011, I really think it was, and she's going to Bangkok with me. She had one kid, though she was already grown up, had her when she was 19, and because her kid was now 19 or 20 at this time, already grown up, it wasn't like she had too much of a connection to the family that she had to send money or anything like that. Her parents were quite old, though she had siblings who lived in the area. Apparently everyone had moved into the house that her ex-husband, that English guy, had built, after they got divorced because of him leaving for Pattaya and cheating on her all the time. The family had moved into that house and they were good. They didn't really need any money from her, didn't need any money at all from her, and she said she was very independent. And she said she was working in the bar because she wanted to meet someone. That was exactly what she said. And I've heard that so many times up until that point in my life. How many times do you hear things like that? Everyone's there to meet someone until they're not, until the money arrives. I don't know. I'm just finding I'm in such a good mood with her and in such good company with her. And we're in Bangkok together. We spend a couple of weeks there, probably longer. Then we're on Koh Samet together. And we actually spend 3 whole months on Koh Samet because it's such a beautiful island. And we got the speedboat across, and I can just remember arriving on that island, thinking perhaps this could be something real with her. I was even thinking that perhaps this could be something more than real, to the point of marriage with her, although I didn't want to allow myself to believe that was possible because of everything that had gone wrong for me up until that point. We stayed in this tiny little place quite close to the main beach on Koh Samet, though it was very tiny. Got a great deal for paying a month at a time, and I think it was that time on Koh Samet when I was just falling for her in a way that, I'd fallen for lots of girls before. I had, time and time again. That girl I met in Chiang Mai, early 20s, who had taken me to Khon Kaen, I had found out this stuff. But it was like with her, though, it wasn't necessarily the physical attraction. It wasn't the physical connection, although she was beautiful to look at. It wasn't necessarily, though, that with her. It was the conversations we could have. It was our shared histories about things that had happened to us, that we both kind of went through things. And it was that drew me to her, and not necessarily the attraction and the physical side of things, although that was great too. Don't get me wrong, that was great. She was still looking beautiful in a bikini on the beach. Don't get me wrong about that too. She looked gorgeous in a bikini on the beach. And just really, I would say, I think we fell for each other during that time in Koh Samet. After that, it was what do we do now? Let's go to Bangkok. We spent probably, I would say, a whole year in Bangkok, not really spending a lot of money at all. We're just going out and living life and we're happy and everything is fine. And I believe, because I wasn't rushing and she didn't want to rush as well, but I believe that we should start to think about getting married. We're asking each other, shall we get married? She was saying to start with, maybe not now, but I want to, but later. Just take time. And I'm saying the same thing. Later. It was like we wanted to, but we didn't need to rush and we weren't forcing anything and we were just building this connection. I do remember, though, in 2012, we were back up in Khon Kaen. I mean, we'd been up once to visit the family, just for me to have an introduction. Nothing serious, though, yet. Nothing, we're getting married yet. No one's expecting anything from me, no sinsod, no anything. It's just, she's already of an age where she doesn't need to do that. Her family's already kind of got her standing in the village because they've got this nice house that the other English guy had left. And we went up there in 2012, just to visit the family. It was when we stopped off, although we didn't need to stop off because Khon Kaen wasn't that far, but we stopped off kind of like in a diversion into the Phetchabun area, just to go up into the mountains and have a bit of a look up there. We did a bit of camping, and that's when we decided that it was now time to get married. That's what we wanted to do. We kind of said, why not? Why wait? So that's what we did. We went then to spend time in Khon Kaen, and we were excited to be getting married. I believe everything's great, yet I'm having to pinch myself. Is it really? I don't know. I was happy, having a wonderful time. I believe perhaps this could be third time lucky with the marriage. I escaped the previous attempt, which could have been a nightmare scenario, and we actually did get married. We did the whole village ceremony. It cost a bit of money, though no sinsod was spoken about. We got money back from the little envelopes that the village gave, and okay, she'd been married in the village before, though nobody seemed to care. Everyone was gracious and happy that she'd met someone else. I believe that was the case. After we were married, it's let's go on a honeymoon, and that takes me back right to the start of the story. Hong Kong, that's where we went. We went to Hong Kong at the end of 2012. We landed in that very different airport. No more Kai Tak, no more British Empire kind of vibe, though it was still a wonderful place, and Hong Kong is. We spent a week in Kowloon, actually, and a week on Hong Kong Island, and we were just showing her the places that I'd been when I was there last, though lots of those places weren't there anymore, and lots of things had changed. And that was her first time leaving the country in her 40s, and I'm in my 60s. But it didn't feel like that sort of age gap was too extreme. It just felt normal, and we felt good together, and we were good together, and I was really happy with my whole lot in life. I didn't have a fortune in terms of money left. Most of my money was still at home, and I decided around this time that as we got back from Hong Kong, that I would transfer all the money to Thailand and just accept the exchange rate at the time. I think I got 50 odd, and I was glad with it, because it's got worse now. Could have transferred it all before and got 70 odd, but I didn't, and it's one of those things that's very easy to look back on and say if only. But you can't, there's no point. I believe at this point, let's just say 2013, I'm trying to get the years though, I've probably mixed up somewhere here and there. Let's say 2013, after we got back from Hong Kong, and I arranged getting all that money sent to Thailand, because that's where I wanted to be. I believed I'd found the real love of my life once and for all, I really believed that, and I transferred in what I had left, which came to about 11 million baht, and we spent a good year in Bangkok, just living in each other's company, and we didn't spend a lot of money that year. I can remember spending absolutely next to nothing. We decided, over a few trips to Khon Kaen, I'm about ready to just not do anything anymore. I felt worn out, I felt tired, I felt like I just wanted to relax, and we made the decision, like so many people do, to go and live in the village. I'd seen this house that the other English guy had built, and it was great. It was a great house. It was a big 4-bedroom house, though it had seen better days. It hadn't been maintained very well, and although it was said, if you want, you could live here, you absolutely can, don't think you can't. But I didn't really want to live with her family, and I knew the situation when it came to families and how all that worked, and how they would expect, everything to be communal. I was okay with that, but we made the decision to build ourselves a new house that would be ours. We didn't need a big place, it only needed to be small. Her family can have the other one, and we can have a smaller one. And let's just retire in Khon Kaen, although I hadn't really worked for a long time. We wanted to live in Khon Kaen, let's just live a basic life. My wife was interested in opening a small shop or something, not really for huge profits, just to keep herself occupied, maybe get a few pool tables and a snooker table and charge 20 baht a day for people to use those, and get a bit of land to do that on, and just kind of have a hobby business. I think that's what we were thinking, and we jumped in and did it. Spent about 3 million baht on a great, beautiful plot of land, about a rai in size, the house and a little shop at the front, and we did get a couple of pool tables, and we began living in the village. As soon as we moved in, I just felt this calm and this sense of relaxation come over me, like I had made the right decision and like nothing could go wrong. Where I want to say that my story is very different to everybody else's is that nothing went wrong. I'm still living there now, still with my wife today. I've been living there ever since, and life is just what you make it. We've had good times throughout the years, so many of them. We've had bad times throughout the years too, and who knows what the future will hold, but I believe we have enough money to see me out. Her parents are long gone, her child is working at a great job in Bangkok, that we see occasionally. 2 of her siblings have sadly passed away. One of them is still alive, and that sibling got the house that English guy built. No family is getting money from me, no family is wanting anything from me, and we've lived like this and had a great time for ages. I wanted to share my story because I've had bad things happen to me in Thailand. That marriage to that girl who I took to England with me, which completely fell apart and I lost all that money. Me going into a downward spiral, spending time with so many girls who only seemed to want money. This other girl that I met, who I was going to get married to, the one I met in Chiang Mai. Well, she was going to get married to me, and while she was still with that guy from the village, and that farmhand who I had no idea she thought was acceptable to be with. That all brought me to my current wife, who is the love of my life, and who has been my rock as I've got older and aged in my 70s. She's in her 50s, though we are great together and we're happy together, and I believe that I made the right call and the right move. Living in an Isan village is a possibility that many people think is going to go wrong, and the sad thing is it does go wrong for most people, because in the village that I live in, it's quite a big village, not huge like a town, though it's quite big. Since I've lived there, a total of 7 other foreign guys have come into the village and built houses, and if I said none of them are there now, I wouldn't be exaggerating. None of them are there now, although the houses remain. The thing that I believe I did right was being lucky, that's it. I'd been unlucky so many times, but with her I was lucky. She was already of an age where she didn't want to play the game anymore. I believe she was already of an age where she didn't want to play that game. She said when I met her in the bar, I would just want to go and meet someone. I was just there to go and get drunk and fall back into that way of life after the depressing nature of what had happened to me with that girl I met in Chiang Mai. And if I hadn't met her, that's what I would have done. When she said she was there because she wanted to meet someone, she wasn't lying. She was telling the 100% truth. The worrying thing is, for most people, is for everyone that's telling the truth, how many are lying? 7 houses in this village, again, it's a big village, in village standards, but 7 houses in this village built by foreigners since I've been here, none of them are there anymore. Through the grapevine, and my wife tells me what's happened. She tells me everything. This guy and his wife got this problem here. His wife did this, his wife did that, his wife was cheating on him, and it's like she knows the story, though she's out of that. She's not like that, and she's not. She's not doing that herself, because I've been with her long enough now. Is it 14 or 15 years I've been with her, and I'm going to be with her till the day I die. It's a success story, but it's not without all the negative things that go along with it, and all the bad things that had happened to me throughout my life. There have been some bad things, bad decisions with women, which have cost me so much money multiple times. not transferring all my money to Thailand when I could have got a great exchange rate, lots of bad things and lots of stupid things that I've done, though ultimately, where am I today? I'm living in a village in Khon Kaen with my wife, who is the love of my life, and we are good together. It's possible, and I wanted to share this positive story even though it's got lots of negative things in it, because I believe that many people should understand that it is possible. If you are like I was at the time, getting on in years, you've got to understand that going for someone in their 20s is not the best idea, although I thought it was up until what happened to me with that girl that I met. I thought I wanted that. It's okay to want this service beauty and the exciting action. It's okay to want that and think you want that. But if you find someone who's at a similar stage of life to you, who perhaps herself wants to settle down, and you're not necessarily going to have any less excitement, because I didn't. When we met, we didn't have any less excitement. I'm not beating around the bush and saying she was just as beautiful as the other girls I'd met, because that would be lying. She wasn't just as beautiful as the other girls I'd met, though she was beautiful in character, her demeanour, the way she was, and the things she did, and to me, she is the most beautiful woman I've ever spent time with, and have ever been with, and she's my wife, and we will be together forever. So thanks for sharing my story. Just to any guys in Thailand, you can make it work. I made it work, and I will only say I made it work because I was lucky that I found that one in a million. I believe she is the one in a million based on all the other girls that I'd spent time with in Thailand. She was, she is, and she always will be my one in a million. I hope and wish for success for any other guys who want to make Thailand work, because you can make it work. You're just going to need to be lucky, and you're going to need to be careful, and you're going to need to avoid doing all the stupid things I did until I found the right one. Thanks again, mate. Take care out there, and good luck to anyone who wants to make Thailand home. It's possible, it's doable, just be very careful.